Well, thanks for coming to the first of our workshops today for Caravan Du Nord. My name is Stanley. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Music Coalition, and we're the only statewide nonprofit devoted solely to supporting musicians of all genres across the state. And as part of that, we do an annual tour of Greater Minnesota called Caravan Du Nord, which is sponsored by The Current and brought to you by the Minnesota State Arts Board and the Legacy Amendment. And we're really happy to be kicking things off in Winona in partnership with the Midwest Music Fest. And we're excited. We have a couple workshops here at Ocooch Mountain Music, and then we're going to be heading to Ed's Bar for a little social hour, and then having a wonderful concert at the Minnesota Conservatory for the Arts, just not too far away from here. And we're going to have a wonderful performance with Haley Bonner, rare solo show, and Sleepy Jesus and LOTT. So, but to kick things off, we're going to have this first workshop is on promoting your music, and I want to sort of poll the audience. How many of you have done some work in promotions, music promotions? Oh my gosh, everybody. Okay, so the question is, what are you interested in learning about today?
Ways to kind of stand out,
Stand out.
a little bit, and
With the traditional media or social media or both? Or?
either way,
Okay.
kind of ways to get that people to the shows and stuff like that.
Okay, how to get people to shows. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's something we're all
Exactly.
interested in, right?
Anyone has
Okay, great. Well, why don't we start, and we'll keep this pretty loose and have it, so anytime you guys have questions, you can raise your hand and interject, and we'll just try and answer all your questions that you have. And again, I guess we'll start by just introducing the panel we have today, because we have some great folks on it. Again, my name is Stanley. In addition to working with the Minnesota Music Coalition, I also host a radio show on KFAI in the Twin Cities. And I'm also an independent musician, so I'm used to promoting my own music as well as other people's. And I worked as a publicist for 8.5 years for Red House Records, so that was my deal for a long time. And I'll pass this around if you guys want to say who you are and your experience with promoting music.
My name is Andrea Swensson. I'm the host of the local show on The Current and a longtime writer in the Twin Cities. I mostly had a background in print journalism. So I guess my role has been promoting music and amplifying other people's stories and kind of trying to figure out what I find interesting and compelling and sharing that with my audience, wherever that is at the moment.
My name is Leah Ottman. I go by LOTT, but I also played in several different bands around the Twin Cities. So I guess background, I have a degree in communication studies, and so with that, I kind of studied a lot about marketing, but also at the same time performing as well, studying music education. So I always had that interest in marketing, but interest in performing. So when I started playing in bands, I kind of took on the role of, I really like doing marketing stuff, whether it's grassroots, kind of coming up with unique ideas, or just kind of sticking to the traditional things. And so I actually ended up working in marketing and advertising for a little bit, and then I decided I just wanted to play music right now. So, but it was a good base to have that professional background and also still use a lot of those skills with how I promote my own bands.
And and we're definitely going to go back to those unique ideas that you have, Leah, because I'm sure that's kind of one of the things we're looking at is, again, how to stand out. But I want to start with sort of the most basic thing. When you're promoting your music, or promoting your music or someone else's music, one of the things that I know comes up a lot is, and no pun intended, every time I say lot now I'm thinking it's a pun. But maybe this question is for you, Leah, about kind of branding and as a musician, who plays in many bands, and then you have your solo thing. How did you figure out what you wanted to call yourself? I know a lot of bands go through a lot of band changes, which sometimes with good reason, but sometimes it can be a marketing challenge. And I also have an assumed name for my music, Mother Banjo. And so, but when I picked it, that was like traumatic thing to figure out what to call yourself, especially if you want it to be yourself, not a band, because you're like, I want to have this forever. I don't want to have to ever change it. I literally had a dry erase board and people gave me ideas, and we rolled out lots of bad ones like Blind Ellen Stanley and a whole bunch of bad Jam Van Jovi. There was a lot of bad ones before Mother Banjo. But I'm curious as to how you came up with that name, and if that's, how do you think about the brand name in terms of yourself versus your other projects?
Big question.
I know, that's a good question. Well, my name is Leah Ottman, and so one of my former employers, for emails, they would combine your first initial and then your last name. So everyone in the office would just call me Lottman. That was just the nickname, because I worked with 3 other Leahs. So it was really bizarre, but so there's Leah 1, Leah 2, Leah 3, so then people just started calling me Lottman. And then when I was thinking about band names, I also had some really terrible band names. And so one day I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do LOTT, L-O-T-T. And then I wanted to do it in all caps because I thought it was more aesthetically pleasing, which can be very confusing because if it's not in all caps, then it looks weird, but it still sounds the same. It's just one more thing to be picky about. So that's how I came up with my name. And then, what was the other part?
About separating your identity between
yes.
your own music and your other bands you play with.
That, I still like to cross-promote, just because I feel like the more eyes that see what I am promoting, the better. However, I have tried to set myself apart with, it's weird, but things of my voice on social media versus the voices of other people on their pages, just different. I guess media photos have been different. The aesthetic, I kind of took on what do I like versus, this is the aesthetic of this band, this is the aesthetic of this band. I'm not trying to be this electronic band that I'm in, because I'm not that. Or I'm just in this full band, this band called We Are the Willows. It's very, very different, and that's kind of more cutesy, charming fonts, things like that, which is wonderful, but not my first taste. So I kind of was like, well, what do I like? A thing in orchestras is like concert black. So I started just wearing all black for my shows. Not to be angsty or weird, but there was a thing.
Classical.
Yeah, it was just like a thing of the culture. So I kind of took that with me of like, it feels like you're getting dressed for a concert when you're wearing all black. So I started wearing all black. So there's just something subtle about that. Every show is a performance, and I wanted to treat it as such. So with putting on a tie that made me feel that way, it kind of even helped get in the mindset of like, I'm performing for these people, they're paying to come see me.
Yeah.
What is it about my music and versus like We Are the Willows again, the kind of the aesthetic, the character of the music, and that's something that I think we actually recently did a workshop on this, and we'll be sharing it with folks. So if you haven't already, you should sign our email list in the back, and we can email it to you. We did a workshop about sort of identifying who you are as an artist and trying to figure out those things that make you you and how to talk about it, how to write about it, because I think the first point of entry for a lot of people, unless it's been a live experience of your music, if it's like with the media or even on social media, it might be a bio or one sheet or even an email talking about yourself and your music and saying, hey, Andrea, here's my new release, take a listen. And in addition to having the link and being short and sweet and to the point, which I'm sure Andrea will talk about, the other thing you need to do is actually tell her who you are and what you do, whether it's in a bio form or just in a short little note, being able to have that kind of one sentence describing your music. So I guess one of the questions I want to ask Andrea is, what are the things to include in like that kind of first contact with the media, as well as what do you like hate in artist bios? So that's 2 big questions.
So do's and don'ts.
Boy.
The top do's.
Yeah.
I know there's a whole list. This could be its own workshop.
Like Ellen said, I think the key is to be concise and to really think about how to get what you're about across in a really simple, clear way. The fact of the matter is that people who work in jobs like mine get a ton of correspondence, And it's nothing personal, it's just that there isn't time to read everything all the way to the bottom of every email. So there's a lot of like scanning and trying to figure out, you know, what's a priority and what needs to be read now, what can be saved until later. So it's tricky because you want to make a good first impression, and I think a lot of people have this feeling like this is my one chance to like tell my entire life story and everything that went into making this album. And you know, making music is such a personal and sometimes very long process, and I do want to hear all of that, but sometimes it's more powerful to just say hello. I have music coming out here. It's coming out soon, so there's a reason like why I should pay attention now. Or I have a show coming up soon. You know, maybe drop some hint that you're familiar with either the publication or the radio station and why you feel like it would be interesting to that person. A big don't that I guess I would say is I get so much email from people that I don't think they listen to The Current. I don't think they know that I only cover local music, so I'm getting pitched all the time for touring bands, which is just not even part of my job. I get pitched for things that just we would never cover, and it's just obvious that they're kind of blanketing, you know, every media outlet that they can find with the same messaging. So I think doing just a little bit of research into who you're talking to and personalizing a message and just trying to be as clear and concise as possible is the biggest thing. The other, I guess, if I'm going to go on like a list of don'ts, I noticed that people get very offended if you don't respond right away, and I understand that feeling because as I say, you know, I understand how much time and effort and personal experience is invested in music, and I take that really seriously. But like I said, we just get a lot, and there's just not a way to get to everything. So I think I've felt a little burnt by people that just turn real cynical real fast and don't even give me a chance, you know, a second email or a reminder or just trying again, you know, at a different time, because a lot of it honestly does come down to timing. Maybe it's an album that I love, but I am already doing like 10 million things that week and I just simply don't have time to do anything with it. Maybe it's a release show that's like 3 months away and I forget, you know, by the time that date rolls around that I wanted to cover it. There's a number of reasons why someone could have, you know, nothing but good faith and intentions and still it just doesn't connect that one time. So I think that's the biggest message that I would give is just remember that you're dealing with people and that they are doing their best, and it's not always about you. A lot of times it's about circumstance.
Yeah, that's really important as someone who, like, even hosting, I host a little weekly radio show. It's women's folk and acoustic music, so it's super narrow genre, and it's once a week on a little community station, and I can't respond to all my emails that I get, and that's a volunteer gig for me. So also knowing, again, what it is they do, certainly you should always treat everyone you deal with respect and try and empathize with their situation, but again, the more you do that research that Andrea was talking about and get to know what it is they do and how they do it, the better you'll be equipped to both approach them in an appropriate way, but also empathize with their situation. So, like, I'm a volunteer DJ. I don't get paid for that. I do it because I love it, which means when, people are kind of snarky and like, why didn't you get back to me? You're like, nah. You know, like, it's just like I'm only doing this because I love it, you know, and it's, you know, but I can't respond to anyone. So I mean, Andrea is like 500 times more emails than I do. So anyway, it's always good to keep that in mind in general. So what I'm interested in knowing, since someone had asked about like how to stand out media, how to get more attention for your work and your events. This will be a question for both of you guys as to, maybe for Andrea, is like, you know, what have you seen that's been really stood out to you that's either doesn't necessarily have to be super innovative. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just something that really caught your attention and why, how it caught your attention maybe. And then with Leah, same question, but also maybe some of those unique ideas that you referred to, like what you found a useful way of getting out the message of your music.
I love simple stuff, so I love just like a handwritten note. Just like, wow, that's amazing. You know,
And
someone
it doesn't happen really often.
took like a pen and like put it to paper and like got a stamp. I mean, who even knows where you get stamps these days? And put it in the mail, and like it just shows like this personal, you know, touch that I love. I'm such a sucker for that kind of thing. If it's a unique way of packaging the CD that maybe, you know, they colored a picture on the envelope, or like there's a sticker or like something cute about it, that I'll just immediately, I take note of like, oh, this wasn't packaged by a machine, you know, someone actually did this. I think that's really powerful, especially now when everything is so digitally focused. But I think like for a broader strategy, like I was really interested actually in what Tony Bear did this week. Obviously he's not like an up-and-coming artist trying to get attention for the first time, but you can tell that he put a lot of thought into doing something completely differently than he had done before, and that's just interesting. It's cool to try to do something new, and you know, he literally, I don't know if you read about all these listening parties that happened this week, but he has, one of the ways that you can buy his album is on cassette tape, and he just basically, I think he's got a street team or something. He had people set up these little boom boxes in, I think, 12 major cities around the world. Minneapolis was one of them, and just played the album on cassette at like a stated time. So if you wanted to hear it, you just had to like go show up and sit and listen. And it was actually not very loud because it's this tiny little boombox, so everyone had to be quiet. And they're all just like sitting on the sidewalk, like listening to music. Like, when's the last time that happened? Like a group of people paying attention to something like that. And I just thought that was so fresh and interesting, and it really brought it back to the immediate community, even though he's like this, you know, global superstar. So that comes to mind anyway.
Well, and I guess play off of that is he's really good at using imagery for posters or just branding. So I think that's very important for artists to have kind of an aesthetic that you're choosing, whether it's for this particular album cycle or overall. And so I like when artists, whatever they're choosing for their fonts or show posters, it looks nice. It's not just word processed and kind of haphazard. And it kind of fits in a way how your music sounds. You know, if, like a death metal band, it's all black and red, and there's some like drippy blood. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get it. It's a death metal band or something. But if you're quiet singer-songwriter acoustic, don't try to look like something you're not. So people kind of get an idea of what you look like. And so that always catches my eye in the Twin Cities when bands have really nice looking posters. And also to that grassroots thing of, you know, putting them up at coffee shops, you know. There are places that you can still hang posters, you can still print posters, and so I think it's really important to, you know, Marketing 101, people need to see that repeated message. Just because they got your Facebook event page doesn't mean they're going to come to your show. You need to keep hitting them over the head with the same message. And so when they're subconsciously seeing the same images, you know, whatever it is, your band name or a logo that you have, it's going to start seeping in. You know, Bon Iver went as far as doing a mural in Uptown. I'm not going to say everyone can do a mural, but just be seen, you know, or I think that's important. Social media isn't everything, and just because you sponsor a post doesn't mean that's going to be that same message, because people interpret print media still very differently they interpret social media. So, yeah.
And that's a really good point about the posters and the guerrilla marketing, because that hasn't gone away. And here in Winona, that's very robust. You see lots of posters around. It's great. At the Midwest Music Store and here at Ocooch and at the coffee shops around town. But certainly, what you said, Leah, is interesting about having the art all tie in with your music. So it's the same message and the same images that you're sort of seeing repeated over and over. And I can't remember what you might remember this, Leah, the marketing statistic. It's like, 7 impressions is what it takes in order to see it for the first time or something like that.
It takes a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, seeing the poster once isn't even enough, you know, it's like seeing it over and over. And a lot of times, I don't know if you've ever had to fill out these surveys from businesses. You're like, oh, I want to win a free cruise, cool. But they ask you like 10 marketing questions, like, how did you find out about this? You know, and it has like friend, newspaper, website, social media, you know, all this stuff. And you're like, I don't know, because you don't know. You like saw it so many places, right? And I think that's how, a lot of times how marketing works. So remembering that repeating it in several places and how people hear about events or see about events is not all the same. So just think about all the ways you hear about events and trying to maximize that is helpful. I think another thing that I don't think was brought up yet is email. The real basic in terms of fan engagement and getting people to events. I don't know how many of you are musicians, but I would say, from my experience, and I don't know about yours, Leah, but I would say more people come to my shows based on an email than anything else, or they cite it. So even though we all get a lot of email, in some ways, the people who sign up for your list are people who really care about what you're doing and will show up more than a social media post, I can tell you that. There are times when I know I got a social media post and I'm like looking for the event and I can't find it, or it was ephemeral, you know, and Facebook has its weird algorithms, and so you saw it once, then you can't find it again, and you know. But the email is a great way of reaching people, and again, a great way of continuing to carry that message, and more personalized, I think, in this day and age. Even if you're going through a email service, I think you should find some way to personalize it, like have a personal note. It's kind of the e-equivalent of what Andrea was talking about. It's not the same as a handwritten note. I do know a few people who still occasionally will send out like postcards about shows, which seems like it's expensive compared to email, but if you had a big release show or a big event, if you got an invitation in the mail, like how cool is that? If you get their mailing address, of course. So anyway, don't discount the email thing, because I think that more than ever stands out a little bit more than it used to. What you guys think in terms, especially Leah, because again, you're dealing with several projects. You have your own Facebook page for LOTT. Obviously, you have a personal page. How do you figure out what you're using it for? Is it very obvious, like, oh, this is LOTT, so I'm going to post about this? Like, how do you treat your different pages, and what do you do to engage with maybe the fans of We Are the Willows with LOTT, or do you not try that hard to cross-promote those?
I guess I do cross-promote, not too much, so I'm not annoying people, but I do for bigger things that I know would fit. For people that follow We Are the Willows, or for people that are fans of Fog, or other bands that I'm in, you know, kind of choose wisely, so I don't overdo it. But I guess my personal, I definitely promote shows. I try not to be too obnoxious, because then people just kind of stop caring and they tune it out. So mostly I use my personal page to post things about the Green Bay Packers, and then my music page. Just kidding. My music page, I definitely promote shows. But it's weird to get people to interact with your own music page things. It's harder and harder to get those views and stuff. So you have to come up with weird things. Like just posting the event and writing something, it's really hard to get anyone to engage in that. So I've had to be creative about posting images or posting videos, and I'm really bad at that with my personal page. My bandmate from We Are the Willows, he's great about that. He'll post weird photos of his dog or him or his grandma, and people eat that up. You know, they love seeing a grandma, but I just never think to post pictures of, you know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing, or you know. But so to try to be like, you know, people are interested. They're following the page for a reason. Give them a behind the scenes look at, you know, this is what I'm working on. Not just come to this show, give me your money. You know, so they like to see kind of weird behind the scenes stuff. So I personally kind of been more aware about doing that, of humanizing myself and not just being this artist page and you're a number to me. You know, being like, okay, maybe you're interested in my daily life.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, because a rule that I've I've heard, we've done a few social media workshops, and some social media experts, of which I am not one, they often say that there's like an 80-20 rule, that like 80% of the time you should be posting, not doing self-promotion. So it's a little weird when you have an artist page, because you're like, that's why I have the artist page. But I mean, people are following you, especially as an artist. I think sometimes, even though with an organization, like certainly like the Current or MMC, it's like they want to see that other side of you. That's why they're following you on social media. Like, I don't know, I've unfollowed people on Twitter because I'm like, oh, you just tweet your bands in town page about your events. I can go to your website for that. You know, like I want to know what you're doing on tour or things like that.
Substance, right?
Yeah, substance, but also like personality, like things that you wouldn't know otherwise, I guess, is to me. That's why I follow someone on social media. Now everyone's different about why they follow people. But I think what Leah said is absolutely true. I mean, they want to see like that other personalized aspect, photos of you and your daily life. And I found that I manage a bunch of different pages, because I have like my own personal page, and then I have Mother Banjo, then I have my radio show, then I have I and other people deal with the Minnesota Music Coalition page. It took me a long time to figure out, I have like all these friends on Facebook. They're kind of personal, although it's a pretty public page. And then I was like, why can't I get all these friends who I know come to shows to like my Mother Banjo page? And I was kind of hung up on that for a while, and then I realized it doesn't matter. There's still people that I'm engaging with, like, forget the Mother Banjo page. I mean, I still post stuff there, but I mean, like, I should just focus on the people who are there, who are engaging with me all the time, who are actually a wider swath of people. Because they might be friends with me because they are related to me. They might be friends with me because we're actually friends. Or they could be, a fan of my radio show, but they don't know about my music. This is a great opportunity because it's all one umbrella of Ellen Stanley stuff. So, think about where your people are engaging with you and use that to your advantage. And also treating your organization and business pages like personal pages, because I found that I did have a lot more people engaging with my Mother Banjo page when I stopped posting gigs. When I was like, I'll share it, but photos or videos. Every once in a while there's something like, oh, I'm going to post this on Facebook. And I'm like, no, I should put it on my Mother Banjo page. I tweeted a photo of, those Lindor truffles, the chocolate balls, in the foil, so tasty. This one was, I think, a blue one. Yeah, dark chocolate. And but it has a little dimple in it. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, the Lindor truffles. And it was right when like Star Wars was coming out, so it was like on the brain, And I opened it up, I was like, it's the Death Star. Like the chocolate looked like the Death Star when you got like close into it. And so I just shared this stupid photo, and it was like the Force is with my chocolate or something like that, something totally stupid. And more people engaged with that post than like anything else. So yeah, you kind of never know what will tap into people's psyche, but I think being yourself, that's the most important part, authenticity with that, and figuring out who you are as an artist and how that fits into your personality, because I think a lot of times your music is some, at least, aspect of your personality. So if you can figure out what is that makes my music, and then how do I extend that in a bigger way, which is a kind of existential question, but I think it's an important one if you're trying to have really authentic creative marketing for yourself. Now, I have a question for Leah, since she promotes her own music, and I know how hard that is. What do you find most challenging about promoting your music, and how have you dealt with it?
I think the most challenging part of promoting my own music is that it's all up to me. And there are days where I wish I had a manager to answer these emails, but I don't, and that's not the case for most people, and so you just have to do it. And so I think just being on top of it, being professional about it. I once did a 9-to-5 thing, so I kind of had the forced 101 of how to conduct yourself. Quick responses are very important for emails, just kind of your overall demeanor. And so I kind of took that into music, and so now I kind of enjoy the weird business side of music stuff. I guess that was a challenge. and I was-
Okay. Oh, just how you dealt with it, but it sounds like you
Oh
answered
yeah,
it.
that's
so-
how I dealt with it.
Well, I want to open this up for questions, make sure we've really answered what you guys are looking for. I know one of the questions, which is a big question, so I don't know if we've...
I got another one for like that. You're talking about
Okay.
doing your personal stuff on your Facebook page. How do you are concerned sometimes with flooding it with like amateur like stuff? You know, you got like low quality videos or something, or you know, and then so on someone goes to your page, they don't see that music video or they don't see the stuff that's going on. Like, how to balance that line between there.
You mean just how to have enough, how
Well,
much content to put up?
So
Or?
if you're doing the 80-20 rule, then your page is going to be pretty much, you know, like not stuff about the music. So someone comes there and it's like, oh, this, like one of our videos is like our guy playing a little tiny drum set. You know, like, oh, everyone loved that, was hilarious. But then if you go to the page, it says the.
I think it is a harder challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
even, I wouldn't say, I know my page is not 80-20, maybe it should be, you know, basically I've been trying to work more towards that. It's a process. But I think you're right. I don't even know that it's, I don't know exactly what the social media experts meant, but the way I interpret it is that it shouldn't be like always promoting or selling something. So I don't think it's that you can't have cool creative content. I think it's mainly that you don't want to be like, just like, come to my gig, buy my album. At least that's how I interpret that, at least for my music page, is more just thinking of other things you can share. Maybe it's about other bands you love, which I think is always a great thing in general. It's nice, obviously it's good karma, and if it's a band you really love, you're giving props out to them, you know, they're appreciating it, they're sharing it. That's a really great way of, it's still music related, but it's not about you. I don't know if that answers that question. Maybe, do you guys have any other answers to that?
Yeah, I would just repeat that I think you could have 100% of your posts still be about your band and about your music and your creative process, but just not having it be feeling like you're pitching all the time. Yeah, and maybe it's like a picture of you rehearsing, or maybe it's like a little video you made talking about the show that's coming up or something, and it's still, in the end, about your band, but it's just taking a different approach.
Something I've done with a new project of mine is I've actually live streamed our practice.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
You watched a couple of clips. So. Anyway,
It
it's just another way that you can connect with people.
Especially now
Yeah.
that Facebook is,
Yeah.
how it pops up and goes because they're promoted so much. It says, oh, Sam went live. Like, oh.
Yeah, that happens a lot. But yeah, like, and then I could see like 70 people tuned in, and it's cool. You know, like. 40-minute practice, and yeah, anyway, it's another idea.
You know, you touched on this, and Andrew did a little bit too, but the idea of other than social media, and I feel like a lot of us have kind of gotten trapped into, it's about social media, and then you get kind of depressed when you look at your Facebook business page and you realize, only like 30 people saw this post, and so, been trying to think more about the strategy of how do you get into the newspaper or other media, and I'm just curious, advice along those lines, or are you, Ellen or Leah, putting out a press release when you're going to a town, or trying to get in contact with a newspaper or magazine person?
Yes. No, it's different if you're playing a lot of local shows. Like if you're a local band and you're playing at Midwest Music Store and then Ed's or whatever, then you're probably not going to send out a press release for every show if you're a local band. But I would save it for the big shows, and I definitely do it for all my touring shows. So that's kind of what I do. I do a formal press release, send it out to all my media contacts, and I have a little personal note at the top. Hi, Andrea. Not handwritten always. I'll work on that. I'll send you some Lindor chuckles next time. Anyway, so that's kind of what I do, and certainly, obviously, for other events I'm promoting through the MMC, we do that. Any big events, we always send out press releases and then do personalized follow-up with people who I'm really interested in having. So I'll do the email blast, with a little note up top talking about why it's important, has all the info, and then I will follow up, do individual follow up with media people, writers, DJs, people who've been supportive in the past. That's kind of my general process. And that's what I did also when I was at Red House doing tour press. Now you can spend forever doing follow up. That's a never ending process. You can always follow up more gently and without guilt, yes. But I'll pass off to Leah to see what she does in terms of contacting media.
Yeah, I think that goes back to Andrea saying, do research. Don't look into the local college radio stations. They're really, really good place to start because a lot of times they'll have touring bands in studios, promote the shows. If you have a couple tickets, they'll promote giving those away. And honestly, that's a really big demo of people that will come out and see bands. They don't quite have the disposable income, so if your tickets are $20, $30, that may be a cheaper still. But most times than not, if you're a touring band, your ticket prices are going to be lower. You're probably going to be in a really accessible club. So college radio stations are good to reach out to. Obviously, local. If there's like a arts and culture type weekly magazine or something like that, or a station that does local music, do that. But again, find out who the correct people are. Don't be contacting the wrong person. Can I just pay to have this there? It's like, no, you can't do. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, just be thorough.
And to go along with that, if it's a town you have not played before and you're like, of course you can just Google and do the research and see what places are covering music in that area, and that's obviously a great thing to do. But one of the best resources is the venue itself, or whoever's presenting your gig. So whether that's an independent promoter like Midwest Music Fest, or whether it's the venue itself, whoever booked you for the gig, ask them, like, are there any writers or DJs or bloggers I should be talking to? Who's a great way to do the street team? That's usually my first point of contact, is to get their media list or any contacts they're willing to share. If you're helping promote a show you're doing at their venue, they're usually very forthcoming because you're helping them do their work. And then you can start building up your own media lists for these different markets. So we did that at Red House, even though we had a giant 30-year-old media database of contacts. That was something we regularly did, is ask the venues for their updated lists, because people change and there's new websites and new ways to get the word out. So that's how we kept our database fresh. Anyone else have any questions? Yeah?
We're opening up a new venue in Rochester, and what is the kind of a time frame for peak promotion? Is it like a couple weeks before, like to get the hype going, or is it really short window, a larger window?
Andrea, I'll let Andrea answer from her perspective, but I would say as a publicist, the earlier you can get the just information out there, the better, especially if you're trying to get write-ups and like things that are maybe a month, like Southern Minnesota Scene, right? They come out monthly, and that's a great paper, has a lot of distribution around this area, but they're monthly, so that means they're going to be doing, if you want to get in the hard copy, you have to do it pretty far out, right, to get in there. Obviously, they have a website, which is more timely, but I'd say that the sooner you can get out the initial news, the more advance warning, even if it's a teaser, like, this is coming, and then, of course, it gives you lots of time to follow up and doing that individual, like, setting up interviews and stuff. But I think the more time you have, the better, but that's me.
Yeah, I think from going, in my print media background to now radio, it's kind of the same. Like 6 weeks out is kind of a sweet spot because you're giving people enough lead time. Like, for example, our in-studio sessions are usually booked out that far in advance. So that there's a lot of stuff that comes in later that sounds great and I would love to do something with, but it's already too late. And then I think it's key to come back like after maybe your first blast is like 6 weeks out, and then wait like a month, and then when you're like at that 2-week range, like do a follow-up. And then especially on social media, I mean, you can be hitting stuff like the day of and maybe catch some people that don't know what they're doing that night.
Yeah, and I would say for me the 2-week spot was always like the kind of make or break. Like that's when it's still maybe worth sending out that first week, even if you're like, well, I would have loved to have sent this out a month ago. But I feel like if you can do it at least within that 2-week window, you might hit some of the weekly things and get in that cycle. Again, I didn't kind of have this mental order of things. So it would be like, obviously, like print media is the longest form, or maybe a weekly show that's really hard to get. And then you have, it kind of diminishes from there to like the daily papers and writers and the blogs. And then it like goes down to like radio people who doing kind of day of studios. And then social media is like the last chance, you know, like, and sometimes when you are on the fence, you're like, should I post this on social media? I would say if you're even asking that question, do it. Is kind of my, like I once shared it. I was playing in Chicago, and it was that afternoon. I was like, oh man, I sent out my email, you know, last like a week or two prior, but I was like, oh, I meant to post something on social media. I never did that, never created an event. And I was like, well, and I'm just sitting at the venue, you know, where I'm going to be playing in like 2 hours and having some dinner. And I was like, well, I'll just post it. And sure enough, someone came who was a fan of mine who had seen me play in Montana. With Story Hill, and she happened to be flying through Chicago back home and got stuck at O'Hare, as it happens, and she saw the post and she had time to kill, so she came to the venue. So you never know. Now that does not happen regularly. Any other last minute questions? We're going to wrap things up shortly, but we'll be around so you can ask us questions. And because we'll have another workshop starting in a few minutes. But is there one more question? Get to? Yes.
You mentioned earlier that you think that people interpret print differently than social media. By print, I think you meant like posters and flyers. So by interpret, do you mean they engage, they remember, what do you mean? How they interpret it differently?
It's just with the whole instant gratification thing and so many ads and stuff coming our way now in 2016. Our brains just process, you know, if you're going through your news feed on Facebook, if you're familiar with Facebook at all, and you just quickly scroll through, our brains aren't taking in all that information as quickly. But if we're seeing it on paper, like a poster on the wall, or flipping through a newspaper, we're still getting that a little bit, taking it in a little bit better than we are in the social media thing. I don't know the science behind it, but I just know that it is a fact that our brains just can't process things on our tablets or our phones as well as they can in print. Just I think because our minds are more conditioned to that, you know, like reading a book or reading a newspaper. But I do know that is fact.
So we can check that.
That's right. Well, and also images, I think, are a way. So if you have a good image, as you were talking about, that kind of encapsulates, like, oh yeah, that's LOTT, or that's a vibe of the music that you can digest a lot more. Will stand out a lot more amongst those feeds and those ads. So to wrap things up, I made a list of all the things that sort of came up more than once in this thing so that we can all keep them in mind. And this list is as much for myself as it is for you guys. It seems like some of the important things we hit on about promoting your music and standing out. One is, of course, being true to yourself as an artist. So having that authenticity of brand and image and having it all tie together and reflect your music and the writing and the images. Doing your research about who you're trying to hit up, especially when contacting media like Andrea. Finding out who they are, what they do, and personalizing that information for them. Like, this is why I'm a good fit for your show. Here's when my gig is, so that they can respond. And when you can do something nice and empathize with their position, writing a personal note, sending chocolates, doing a picture on the envelope. No, I'm just kidding. She's like, I'm going to gain 500 pounds, thanks, Alan. And urgency, so creating the urgency, and that's going back to your question. It's like, it's good to get the information out there earlier, but as you close in closer, that's when you hit up those dates. And also hitting up all the ways we hear about gigs. So beyond social media, sending out the email blasts, doing posters, word of mouth, ticket giveaways, all those kinds of things. Did I leave anything out? And talking to people. So this is the other thing. We're going to give you guys some a chance to mill around and chat with people. But and also at Ed's later today when we have our social hour after the second workshop. I think the more you can talk to people in person, you can hand your flyer to them. I think that's always a good thing. So thank you for coming out for this first workshop. Stick around. We're going to have Haley Bonner, a Q&A with her and talking about her music. So stick around. And again, thanks for coming.